We Should Write. Welcome back to another episode of We Should Write. My guest today, I am excited. I am terrified. I feel like I'm already being assessed. And I want to know, tell me the truth. Did you do a background check on me before you came?
Not at all.
Would you be able to tell me if you had?
Yeah.
Would you tell me if you had?
Sure.
I'm trying to look into your eyes and assess you. You're lying, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Guys, today joining me is Brad Beeler, who, let me give you the quick hits here. 25 years within the U.S. Secret Service. He was on the protection detail for President George H.W. Bush and multiple foreign heads of state. Spent 17 years as a federal polygraph examiner. I'm so scared right now. Has conducted more criminal polygraphs than anyone in Secret Service history. Does that still remain true?
I believe so.
Wow. He's had confessions from high-profile investigations. I guess he's going to get a confession out of me today. He was named the U.S. Secret Service Special Agent of the Year for combating crimes against children. I don't even want to know half of what you have done and seen through that, but I am so grateful that people like you are out there combating that. He's an instructor for the National Center for Credibility Assessment, and they've trained thousands of FBI, CIA, and intelligence professionals. He's now a global communication and trust expert, and his current book, which we're going to dive in today, called Tell Me Everything, which is about earning trust and, detecting deception, and really just correct me if I'm wrong, but the psychology behind why we lie.
Correct.
Right, okay. I'm ready for you to tell me everything. I'm going to tell you everything. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome to the show my new friend, soon to be yours, Brad Beeler. Hello.
Hello, and thank you for having me on. I'm super excited.
I'm super excited that somebody else paid to fly you out to Nashville, and then I got to piggyback off of them and get you as a guest.
Yes, ma'am.
So shout out to them. Okay. I sort of jokingly, seriously, but let me just ask you before I dive into my initial first questions. Mm-hmm. Do you check up on people before you go meet with them?
Always. Yeah, always.
Okay.
I didn't in this situation.
You already trusted me.
I trusted you because I had already talked to you on the Trucker podcast, which I had a blast.
Yes.
So, yeah, I already trusted you. So I think you're good people. I don't need to check into you.
Okay, good. I feel good that I passed that test. You don't think this is a secret lair that I've pulled you to murder you? I'm
a little concerned. I saw the bourbon collection in the back, and, I didn't look behind the shower curtain or anything yet. But
well done.
Inside joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel safe. I'm in a safe space here.
Good. We're in a safe space. Okay. So I always like to start this show. First of all, we take a deep breath. And it's for everybody listening, Zach, Seamus, crew, everyone here. We're going to take a deep breath together because I think if you're driving in a truck, if you're sitting in an office, if you're on stage, wherever you are, it's the simplest thing in the world, and we always forget to do it. I mean, we're doing it, but we don't intentionally do it. So on the count of 3, let's breathe together, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're still here. So my first question I always ask people, which I'm going to ask it to you a little differently.
Okay.
I always like to ask people in this time of life, in this moment right now, what they're grateful for. But I'm going to put a little caveat on yours because knowing everything that you've done and seen and your lived experiences, which would blow my mind, I know, with that sort of lens on it, what are you grateful for right now, especially with what's going on in the world, what you know that we don't? What are you able to be grateful and comforted in, I guess?
Yeah, personally, my wife's health. So she beat cancer 2.5 years ago, awesome. And we were blessed to have a great medical staff and wonderful, caring children that helped us along the way. So definitely thankful for that. She finally got her last clear scan, so she's in remission. So
amazing.
Yeah,
yay.
So that's what
Great.
I'm thankful for. Yes, absolutely.
What's her name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Great. That's wonderful. And then can you say something I'm also not going to say we're in trying times
no.
because I believe we've always been in trying times. But yeah. How do you sleep at night
people are
right now?
people, and what I mean by that is traveling to 40 countries, working multiple heads of state. I see their protective details, I see their protectees, and I see that they worry about the same things that we worry about. Missing anniversaries, what they need to pick up for their kids. And I was, right before I retired, I was on the Iranian detail. And we're going through some trying times with them. There were some belief systems out there. I will say that they were some of the nicest people, some of the most professional people, some of the most well-trained people when I worked with them in New York. And like I said, when you're talking to them, they're people. The month before that, I'm in Japan and I'm with their Secret Service, and this individual's from Hiroshima. And you think 70 years ago, we dropped an atomic weapon upon them. And now I'm doing a Google Translate conversation with this guy, and he's telling me about his kids and gymnastics, and his wife's bringing in desserts every single day for me, and we're talking about things. So we're in echo chambers. We think people are different. We have an us versus them mentality, but I truly believe in thousands of people that I've talked to over the years, there's only been a few evil people. I love the sinner, I hate the sin, and realize that there's good in everybody, and there's situational factors that cause people to do bad things. So I have hope that we'll figure it out.
Good. I couldn't agree more. I think we're all doing the best we can with the information we have and our circumstances around us. And I'm with you that I believe people are good.
Yes.
I haven't personally seen a lot of evil myself. And actually, on that note, I came to this sort of conclusion just a couple days ago that I'm so tired of hearing other people's takes on people. Now, you assess people for a living. Yeah. This is your whole career around it. But that being said, like, I don't feel like unless somebody has been in my presence, who am I to make a judgment call on them?
You're not.
Right?
Is that we are very, very bad at this. I mean, and you see this in law enforcement, sadly, a lot. I mean, look at the Amanda Knox case. You have somebody that in Italy that after the horrific death of her roommate, they see her consoling in her boyfriend, and they assume, oh, that's strange, that's awkward. They all of a sudden used confirmation bias and said she must have done it, and everything was viewed through that prism, and they falsely imprisoned her for a crime she didn't commit. They ultimately solved that case, thankfully. But it's one of those things where we look at behavior and we think we got it all figured out. I always love these behavioral panels and these things and these YouTube videos where people look at a clip out of context and they say, oh, they must be lying. It must be this. It must be that. You see how they turned their foot this way. That shows that they have extreme disrespect for this person. And that's just, I want multiple interactions with somebody before I can make a take, because it is very easy to put horns and halos on people way too quickly, and we make a very, very poor assessment. And I can speak to that in a couple different ways. We're doing a search warrant right before I retired, about a year before I retired. And my buddy Ryan and I, and we come into the kitchen and we see a Chihuahua and we see a pit bull. Now, what are we going to worry about?
You've already judged.
I've already judged, right? I've already made the assessment based upon what society said is that pit bull is evil, right? And I look at that pit bull and I'm like, I don't want to have to shoot this animal, but I'm not worried about the Chihuahua. Meanwhile, what is the Chihuahua doing? It's creeping, it's creeping, it's creeping. It jumps up and grabs me by my genitals. And I know the pit bull's laughing. I know my partner Ryan's laughing because I see him laughing. Yeah. But thank God to the Duluth Trading Company and their fire hose material pants. Shout out big time, because I would be speaking at a much higher octave right now if it wasn't for them. But I had to holster up. I had to pry little Chihuahua's teeth off of me. And that just goes to show I put horns and halos on the wrong thing. And not, a couple years prior, I should have learned my lesson. I was working a missing persons case. And this was a biker case where you have a 1%er and you have a hangaround that were our two main suspects. And anybody that understands motorcycle groups, a 1%er goes back to the 50s where somebody said, it's 1% of bikers that give us all a bad name. They commit the crimes, where 99% are law-abiding. And then you had this hangaround who didn't even own a bike. And the 1%er, the suspect, he was about 6'4", 220. He was Hollywood casting. He looked evil. And then you had the hangaround that was about 5'6", 120, dripping wet maybe, looked like Eddie Haskell. So who are we going to test first? Who are we going to talk to first? I'm going to talk to that hangaround, the wannabe. And he fails my polygraph on the question regarding, did you participate in the disappearance of that female? Well, I'm thinking there's no way he could have done this. He's buddies with this 1%er. He must have seen something. He must have known something. And he keeps saying, that's not it, Brad. That's not it. I'm interrogating him. Hey, man, let me take care of you.
The little guy's saying that.
The little guy.
Okay.
I'm like, look, man, I know you're afraid of this guy. Look, I protect people for a living. Let me protect you. I think he acted out of character, and you're just afraid. I'm trying everything I can, right? And he's like, Brad, that's not it. It's not it. Keep saying that's not it, but I'm not hearing it because I got confirmation bias.
You're not saying, well, what is it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The people outside the room, the two detectives, they knock on the door and they say, hey, can we chat with him for a second? I'm, absolutely. Got to let your ego down. And they came in and they're like, you keep saying that's not it, Bob. What's it? And he goes, oh, I killed her, cut her up in 6 pieces and threw her in the river. Just like that. That's the way he spoke it into existence. And that just goes to show you that we assign horns and halos too quickly. We rely on those initial biases. You use those for when you're walking to the car at night here in Nashville and it's late at night. You hear that bottle break. You hear somebody coming up behind you. You use that gut instinct there for personal safety, and it's very effective. Law enforcement uses it on street stops. What you don't use it in is personal and professional relationships.
Yeah.
Because people take advantage of it. They do that background on you. They do find out your metaphorical social media reel. They find out what makes you tick. And as a result, they become that Prince Charming. And you're like, oh, Brad understands me. No, I'm manipulating you. And so we got to be very careful about what we put out into the world because people are going to boomerang it back against us.
Well, I remember you talking about I know you have so many concepts in the book around Horns and Halos, the Tell Me Everything book, which we're going to read a passage from here. And I bet you can get it anywhere you buy your books. You can go to bradleybeeler.com. More on that a bit. But I remember years ago when I was I lived in Oklahoma. I think I was in college at the time, and I got called into jury duty. And they were going through, and my dad was a district attorney in Oklahoma, so I knew I probably wasn't going to get chosen anyway. But I hadn't said that out loud yet. But I remember they walked the guy on trial in, and he had a 666 tattooed on his face, and I immediately I said out loud, well, he's guilty. And they're like, we can release number 17, He was not, by the way, come to find out later. He was not, but that was I've never forgotten that. That was forever
Did you do that
ago.
on purpose?
A little bit.
Okay, all right.
Probably.
See, we got the truth out of you.
Yeah. Oh, crap. I tell you everything. So because it's called Tell Me Everything, and I know you talk about in the book how we share when we feel understood.
Yes.
That's when I will share everything with you.
Yep.
And that being said, I know I get in an Uber. I love taking early morning Ubers to the airport and talking to the Uber driver. And I will get in that 30-minute drive. Yep. I will know everything about them. They'll know everything about me. But I haven't had long enough to assess that person.
Yep.
I mean, I guess in the back of my head, I hope Uber has done their background check.
I will never see them again, is why you're talking to them.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's one of these things. A good buddy of mine, Robin Dreek, he's an FBI profiler, retired now, but he likes to start off conversations with time constraints. And it's similar when I was flying into Nashville last night. A lot of times people put their headphones in and they don't talk. They know, man, I may be stuck in a 2-hour conversation with my seatmate. But you know what? Right as final, after you land and you're on final approach, how many people, hey, where are you going? What you got? Because there's a known commodity of how much time I might have to talk to this person. So you have a known distance. You got your Uber app. You know you're going to be there in 27 minutes. So just like you, I driving in last night, I had a driver. He's from Orlando. I could see the accent. I don't want to say, where are you from? I said, where were you at before, Angela? I was in Uzbekistan. I said, oh, tell me about that. And the next thing you know, he's telling me to pick up some Uzbek food at whatever the Uzbek restaurant, and he tells me what kind of food to get. Now I feel like I'm an Uzbek food expert. I don't know when I'm ever going to use that, right? But that's the beauty of that. So there's 2 principles. One, you have a time frame, but they're a stranger. We either talk to people that are strangers. There's a lot of apps out there that people will confide in because it's a complete app that talks to strangers, or people that we like, trust, and respect. The middle ground is the dangerous spot. All right. So you talk to the Uber driver. Who else do you talk to? You talk to your besties. Think about some of the things that you've said. Why did you tell your bestie that? Because they like you. You like them. You have shared, whatever experiences. If you were going through a breakup or a loss or whatever, they would confide in you and they would blame some other situation for why you did. They would understand. They would diminish the impact. And that's what good friends do. So I either want to be that complete stranger or I want to be their best friend. If you're in the middle, you're not going to get a lot of information from somebody.
That's interesting. It's funny though. I think I have one of my best friends who I'm thinking about right now, who I don't tell her a lot of things, because she will ask a lot. Like there's sometimes in a time where I kind of forget, and I'll share something like deep or heavy I'm going through, and then quickly I'll be like, crap, why did I do that? Because I know she's gonna and she's coming from an amazing place, but I know she's going to text every day and be like, how are you doing? How's your heart? And I'm like, oh, I wanted to, I guess back to the I'll never see him again point. I wanted to say it, release it. And that's what this show is about.
Yep.
Writing stuff down, sharing our stuff, getting it out so that we can release it and move on. And so I think about that. The things I will say to complete strangers that I wouldn't tell to the person closest to me.
You don't care if they judge you because they're going to be gone. They don't know you. You don't know them. It's anonymous. That's the beauty of that situation. It's a Catholic confessional. Why do we have a Catholic confessional that has a shroud on it? If I walked and sat in a Catholic confessional like this and I'm looking at the priest, I'm not going to tell him anything.
Yeah.
But we put a little veil up.
Okay.
I will tell you everything. And you know what the priest will be doing? They'll be talking to you like this. And they will give you your 50 Hail Marys. And they'll make you feel good. They won't be like, really?
You did what?
What did you do? And they won't, because you won't see that. So they will create a space where you're judgment-free, where you have a professional, and there's that anonymity. I mean, there's legal protections. in a lot of those situations. And the same thing with a doctor's office. Like, I will say this, privacy is so important. When my wife was going to our oncologist, they were going through a remodel. And so she's getting her, basically cancer diagnosis. And the temporary place they were at had really paper thin walls. And it was unfortunate and it was scary because the person next to us was getting a pancreatic cancer diagnosis, basically a death sentence. Well, my wife hears that.
Oh my gosh.
What do you think her heart rate's doing, right? The person next to us has lung cancer, stage 4, whatever. Hey, you have 6 months to live. And then there's the knock on our door. So picking the right time, picking the right place, and putting people in the right headspace is so important to effective communication. I don't want to have that talk at 8:30 after they drove in or 4:30 before they're going home. I want to have it at 10 or 2. I want to have it in their safe space, and I don't want to judge them. I want to make sure that they're open to have that conversation.
Is it true? I've heard, since you just did this, it made me think. I heard at one point that and I've tried this with my husband. I don't know if it's worked or if he's noticed it, but I've heard that if you have to talk about something big, whether it's deep or to do it side by side like this. So I try to do it when we're driving. Is that real?
I'd say more of a clamshell. I mean, think about how many times you're in a car. I'm driving. You're in the passenger seat. We have conversations. We sing, right? We do all kinds of crazy things in a car.
Right.
I've had some of the best interrogations I've ever had in a car because, for one, it's normal. It has great acoustics for the recordings, kind of like this. Cars are built that way. But also I might be able to say something like, hey, Billy, you see the windshield and the rearview mirror? Which one's bigger? Oh, the windshield. Why is that? I need to see where I'm going. Why is the rearview mirror so much shorter? Because I need to see where I've been. Yeah, and you can't focus on where you've been. The good Lord made that windshield because we need to focus on what's in front of us. And it's a little visual, but people are like, oh, that makes sense, right? So sometimes we use those metaphors. And, I know we're talking writing and we're talking creativity, but metaphors are so powerful in interrogation and in communication in general, is it gets people out of the here and now of the bad thing they're talking about and focuses something outside the car, metaphorically speaking. Got
it. Okay. Check. One more thing I'm writing down, I'm learning. So, yes, we are talking writing and creativity, but really what we're talking about is like I said, release and the power of our words. And so I actually am wearing my Lo Siento sweatshirt, which also it's actually a tequila. It says the unapologetic spirit on the back because I am going to talk to you about alcohol in a minute. But Lo Siento. The reason I wore this is because I want to talk to you about the phrase "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
I've been thinking about the power of our words, obviously, but specifically with "I'm sorry," and I'm trying to omit it from my vocabulary unless I have murdered one of your relatives, and I'm genuinely sorry about that. I won't do that. Don't worry. You've checked up on me. You know I won't. But when I say, especially even in texting somebody, be like, "Sorry, I didn't get back to you quicker." No, every time I start doing it, I let it go. So my question to you, or I rewrite it. My question to you about "I'm sorry" is, when we say we're sorry and we're not actually sorry,
terrible.
What's happening? What's going on?
I mean, we're saying it because we think we need to say it. Think about every funeral you've been to. And you can do two things that are really bad.
Sorry for your loss.
You can say, "I'm so sorry for your loss." Or you could do something even worse. You can insert yourself in the situation and say, "I understand what you're going through. I lost my father too." Where now you just made it about you. What's the worst thing we do in communication? We say, "Me too," basically, metaphorically.
Yeah.
Is we make it about us. We put these fancy spotlights on us. It's their pain. It's their grief. Sometimes it affects people deeply. Sometimes it doesn't affect them at all. Some victims, something very, very outwardly that we think small, affects them greatly. And other people's were victimized in a horrible way, but their coping mechanisms may be different. So I want you to replace "I'm sorry" with "I can't imagine." Okay? I can't,
in that
funeral sense.
I can't imagine what you're going
I
through.
can't imagine what you're going through. Because you can't. And just by you saying that gives them the space to open up a little. And they offer up maybe a little bit of information. And then it's about, don't offer up like, "Is there anything we can do?" I always hate that when I hear that. As if that person has been told that 80 times. If there's anything I can do, how about you go mow the yard?
Yeah.
How about you bring the food over? Just do it, right? And that's, once again, not to get off topic, but that bothers me is when people, they say "I'm sorry" and then they follow it up with this, "If there's anything I can do."
Because no one's going to ask you for it.
No one's going to take it for it. Just do it. Okay?
I thought about that the other day. Somebody, I can't even remember who now, but somebody was going through something, lost somebody or whatever. And I said, if you want us to drop off food or something, let me know. And then a little bit later, I'm like, of course they're not going to be like,
just do it.
"Hey, can I get 2 tacos?" And
Right.
Just drop the food on their porch and go.
Guess what? If everybody brings food over and it gets thrown away, it is what it is. But you made that overt attempt. And the other thing I like to say is, I can't imagine with, you mind if you put your arm on? I'm very careful with touch. a dry handshake done at the right time. We start every conversation and end every conversation with a handshake, right? So I put antiperspirant on my hands. Okay. Why? Because a handshake that has perspiration on it comes across as you're scared, as you're nervous. It's a really bad first impression. So I have a dry handshake, but I also have a warm handshake. So if I'm seated at a dinner event and I know somebody may be coming over, I'll actually sit on my hand. Or in Polygraph, I actually had a hand warmer. So I have a warm hand. So the worst handshake is what? Cold, cool, clammy, creamy, right? Yeah. The Queen of England.
Yeah.
But you ladies, you put cocoa butter and shea butter and stuff on your hands in the wintertime. And what is that handshake? It's like slimy. I do want to shake your hand like that. I don't want to get in there.
I'm
come
dry.
in. I'll come in at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And the reason I come in at 2 o'clock is this. We pronate as a species because we type and so on and so forth. So I want to make it easy for you. And the whole point of handshakes is to show that I don't have a weapon. This is the lightest part of my body. So by going at 2 o'clock, I'm flashing. I don't have a weapon, and I'm making a nice landing area for you. And what I don't want to do is I don't want bones, okay? And I don't want to check your pulse.
Okay.
So I got a 45% angle because if I came in heavy, I give you the Queen of England, right? It's just terrible. Now, if you offer that up to me, that's on you. Or the
I already don't trust
the
you.
creepiest is when I come in flat and I do this thing where I'm like checking your radial pulse. That's creepy.
Why would anyone do that?
I think they just don't know better, or they're creepy. Like
right.
so, either they're ignorant or creepy, right?
Okay.
So I come in at a 45, and we get this little. I'm sure there's an anatomical thing here associated with that, but this little thing right here, the little D,
I call it the gurgly.
the gurgly. I like that. I like how you did that.
Thanks.
We come in at a 45-degree angle and hit the gurgly, okay. And once again, I'm matching your strength, and it's not a shake. We don't have palsy. It's just a little hold. So we come in, eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. We go down, boom, hold. And now I usually just drop eye contact right when I connect because I don't want to miss the midair refuel. Because there's nothing worse than you do that thing, right?
Right.
And then I reconnect, and what I do then is I frontally align, heart to heart. Okay. Now I don't want to stay that way long. I know we just talked about how do we have tough conversations, and to follow up on that, when I said clamshell, this to me is the perfect chair because I can see your feet. We don't have a table in between us. I can see your body language. I see your anchor points. The only anchor point you have right now is your legs. And with females, I don't take that as a shot or as a good thing or a bad thing because sometimes they're wearing shorts, they're wearing skirts. It's appropriate to cross. But if I'm talking to you and then you uncross, or if I'm talking to you and you do cross and it has nothing to do with the temperature and the environment in the room, that to me is a tell. Or especially with the feet, if we're 30 minutes into a conversation and we're kind of running out of things to say and all of a sudden I see those feet point to the door, that says to me, oh, okay, she wants to end this conversation.
Huh.
If you look at the pipeline of your nervous system, your feet are the longest away from your brain. So that's the hardest part to camouflage is your feet. So if you're behind a table, if you're across from a table, you can't see that. So I really want to see that where that's pointed because that shows interest or disinterest. For people in the dating scene, it shows who they're interested in. So if you got a buddy and a co-pilot, whatever, at the bars, where they're frontally associated with and where their feet are, that's probably who they're showing their interest to.
So if I were to do this right now, what would you think? Anything?
I would say whatever I just said, maybe you didn't like. Or I would say you've been seating the other way for 15 minutes and your hips hurt and that's what you did.
My leg just kind of hurt.
So it's tough to have absolutes, but if I just randomly see that and I just said something that was maybe potentially hurtful or potentially judgmental, I'd be like, don't do that again. Now, if I said something and you forwardly aligned, or if you were crossed up and then now you uncrossed and you gave me a little eyebrow flash, I'd be like, So
peacocking.
I'm always going to eyebrow flash. I'm always going to tip my side to show my carotid just briefly. These are spices. These are instantaneous things. I'm going to frontally align. I'm going to slightly deepen my voice, and I'm going to lower my volume because no one screams secrets. They whisper them. So if I want to have a private conversation, I'm going to bring the decibels down 15 or 20.
Unless the plane's going down. I'm in love with you.
I love you. Yeah.
Oh no, we're not crashing. Shoot.
Darn it.
Shoot. Okay, fascinating. You like to sneak things in conversation. So at some point, why didn't you offend me in the conversation and see if I move?
Okay, I'll offend you.
Okay, great.
Got it.
Great, got it. Okay, the other thing I said, so Lo Siento, we covered I'm sorry. The unapologetic spirit, tequila, just any in general. Now, the reason I want to talk about alcohol, so here in Nashville, music business, I'm fascinated by. There's so many people are getting sober these days. I mean, at least in my world, and a lot of it are people in the music business who led really toxic touring lives or playing down Broadway or whatever it is. But like actually a buddy of ours, a neighbor of ours, who's a hit songwriter, and his success came in his drinking days. They were writing drinking songs and and telling truths
Yep.
because alcohol will do that, right? And so now, as a sober human, he's trying to he's doing fine, but in my head, he's like navigating how do you now go right when you're not on the bar stool, when you're not, how do you, how you tell the secrets. So we'll get to the kind of entertainment piece of it, but first, have you interrogated people who are drunk? I assume yes,
Yep.
obviously. And is it true that was really the true serum they would give, like get people drunk and get me drunk and get to know me?
We couldn't do that. I will say this: sometimes alcohol is someone's normal. Sometimes drugs is their normal. It's their baseline.
Right. Gotcha.
And when it comes to like false confessions, you have to be very, very careful of that. So if somebody gets arrested, let's say on a Friday, and they want me to come out and do a polygraph the following day, but they're a heroin addict, they're an alcoholic, I'm actually going to have a problem getting a reading from them or getting a good baseline because they're not themselves. Okay, that monkey that's been on their back is not on their back right now, and their normal state is not their current normal state. And so I would actually not do a polygraph in that situation. I would not talk to them. And typically, if
you wouldn't talk to them while they're high or until they're high again.
I will say this. I got to be careful how I put this.
Yeah. I'm not trying to walk you into anything.
No. I would say this. I would say I would get a better read theoretically if they were in their normal state. And if their normal state is they drink 15 Busch Lights a day, I'm probably going to get a more accurate read about Busch Light number 7.
Right, yeah,
okay?
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't want Busch Light 15. They haven't had Busch Light for a whole day.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is not about tricking anybody. It's just about getting them in there.
But, what does that alcohol as far as cause that creativity? Some people would say alcohol reveals the true self. It just intensifies what their personality or attributes already are. Could it be that alcohol is drank in an environment that allows for creativity? They're around creative people when they're drinking. And it wasn't about the alcohol, it was about the people they associated with when they were around the alcohol, right? I mean, it may have nothing to do with the alcohol. It's just they're around some very synergistic people that they flow with that also drink alcohol and say weird shit when they're drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And the more weird creative shit that they say, like whatever. I know we got some words of the day that we worked in here, but they just say random stuff. And before you know it, they start putting stuff on paper because they don't care, right? That prefrontal cortex has been anesthetized to where we don't care if we say that dumb thing. That's the beauty of improv. Like I learned so much about communication in high school and college by doing improv because you go to a bazooka bubblegum card and you get the saying, or you go to a fortune cookie and you get the saying, and you got 5 minutes with your partner to come up with a skit off of that. And the key to improv is not worrying about being stupid, is not worried about saying the wrong thing, because many, many times you're going to say the wrong thing. You take the best football players in the world, you take the best baseball players in the world, they fail 70% of the time, okay? They fail. And yet they're an all-star if they fail 70% of the time. So you're going to have your flubs, you're going to have your mistakes, but maybe by having the alcohol and being around those people, they build up such a boneyard of information and things that they scroll out that they're able to distill that down to a good product.
Huh. Okay. Because so from, I guess, take it from the creative or the entertainment side of things, lens of things. People who are writing songs about drinking. Like I'm curious to people that are sober, how do they go back and still write about and still stay relevant? Because for me, like I know, for instance, Keith Urban. Supposedly, he's been sober for a long time, but he still sings. There's still things that are trickle in, and so how much of our recall is correct, or do we know down what percentage?
I don't know. Maybe
of
that's his methadone. Maybe singing about's his methadone, so he doesn't have to chase the dragon anymore. I don't know. Sometimes talking about it, your journaling might be that, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't chase those demons, you write that down. So maybe writing about it. I just know that the last 10 years, I don't know what the number one word or reference in country music is, but whiskey's probably up there.
It's
I would
not
assume,
lemonade.
Right? It's
I'll
definitely
tell
not
you
lemonade.
Yeah. It's not healing, and no, it's definitely not that. So I want will you read I wanted you to read a passage from the book. I know you're going to read sort of from the end. So the book, Tell Me Everything.
Yeah.
The psychology around lying. I'm before you read that. How hard is it to be married to you or be your child?
I turn it off. Not with my kids, with my wife, because my wife will beat me.
How do you turn it off though? You've got to be.
Well, one, you've got to be with a partner that I have been for 27 years that doesn't lie to me. Now, she may lie to me about how much she spent on something, but
Right.
in the big picture, right?
It's harmless-ish.
It's harmless-ish.
Harmless-ish,
Or like I'll
Seamus.
return something. I'll buy something and return it. And then it'll be like, well, I only spent $20 on it. Well, yeah, because you returned a $150 item. So she's not lying.
Not lying.
She only spent on that day $20. It's $170 because she returned the $150. I don't know if you've ever done that. It's a sneaky trick.
I've done a lot of sneaky tricks when it comes to buying things. And
My kids though, my son, so I'm not big into eye accessing cues. And what I mean by that is there used to be a belief that like people look up to the left, up to the right. It's recall versus creation. And that's mainly nonsense. But my son is like a unicorn. It's one of these things, and I hope he doesn't listen to this. He's 21 now, and I've used it for 17 years of his life. When he looks a certain way, it's complete fabrication nonsense. And I know it, and it's a cheat code, and it's not fair. I, in fact, didn't even put that in my book because I'm like, he's going to read my book. So I'll just tell him not to listen to this podcast.
Oh, I'm going to share this with him for sure. I just tweeted him already. But yeah, that would be. It's fascinating to me. I guess it's anybody's. The joke of a carpenter is his house is falling down,
Yeah.
or a doctor maybe doesn't have his own health in
Right.
check, whatever. So, how much of because you are human too, and you may or may not lie too in your world, or
Yeah.
do think right. So, how much are you able to catch your own self in a lie and
Yeah. What's the
navigate
lie?
out?
What's the lie, right? So lies by omission, lies by commission, right? So most of the lies are lies by omission. We just leave things out, how much I spent on something.
Is that a
how
lie?
much yeah, it's a lie.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's a conscious choice that you chose to not provide that information. And it's the most common thing that we do. Our kids do it to us, our loved ones do it to us, and criminals unfortunately do it to us. And I'll see this, it's think of it this way. Do you have a dog?
Yes.
Okay. When you walk your dog, when it's not on the leash, what does it do? Does it go
Well,
crazy?
Ours does not.
Okay, so
Ours
you've got a
stays right
well-trained
by
dog.
us. Yeah.
Okay. Most dogs, especially when they're
Most will run off.
man, they're making their own scent walk, right? They're marking territory, they're doing whatever. That's an open-ended statement. That's kind of like somebody telling a story. So think of it this way. Have you ever had somebody tell you a tall tale?
Yes, of course.
Okay. About how much money they made, luck with the ladies, whatever the case may be,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or what they said to the boss. So let's say you got a boss and you have a coworker that comes up to you and says, I said this to Shannon. I told her this. I told her where she could stick it. Blah, blah, blah. And you don't think she told Shannon that. So it's an open-ended statement. The dog is going without a leash. And you decide, you know what, I want to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to put the dog on the leash. So how do we get to true detection of deception? Meaning it's not 100%, but it increases from a coin flip to 60, 70%, is you make it into a yes or no statement. So you let her tell her tall tale about what she said to Shannon, this, that, and the other. And then you say, wow, you said that to Shannon? And what you turned it to now is now the spotlight's on her. And now she's got to make a decision about what she said to Shannon. And a lot of times what's going to happen is she'll say, well, in so many words.
Right. Yeah.
She knows what I mean. And I'll do this a lot with my kids, but I also do it with criminals. It's a good hack to not lose relationships and to not call people a liar, because when you call somebody a liar, they're reflexively, since they were 2 or 3 years old, they're going to say, no, I'm not. So it's better to not use the word lying. I can literally say something and say, hey, I don't think you're being 100% honest with me. And it's so much better than calling you a liar.
Fair, because it's not labeling.
It's not labeling,
Yeah.
because a liar's a liar. Not being honest doesn't, label you as a liar. So
If I was not being honest with you, I can actually change that. I can
Yep.
I can course correct.
Yep. So
Whereas if you call me a liar, I cannot.
Yep. So I make it a yes or no question. And then what I want to see, if you just think of it this way, a yes or no question should be answered yes or no, and it should be done so in a timely fashion. And if you just look at things through the prism of that, a whole world will open up to you, because you'll be like, wow. Because what will happen is people will say usually, normally, typically, or they'll delay. You'll say, it's like, what did we have for lunch? Oh, we had these wonderful turkey avocado sandwiches from such and such. Like, we just had that. That's easy. Now, if I make it hard and say, what'd you have for lunch last Wednesday? That's going to be more difficult. But if I ask you, did you shoot that man? Did you stab that man? Whatever. That's a pretty easy question. And if all of a sudden I get, did I shoot that man? What are they doing? They're delaying. They don't want to lie. Lying is mentally taxing. It's hard. There's consequences with that lie. So the first thing we look at is delay. And delay can come in the form of, I've baselined you to know what your average speed is from stimulus to response, and now you just tripled that. Okay, that's a little tick mark that's a yellow flag there. And then you repeat the question. Well, you're buying yourself time. That's weird. It's not 100%, but I'm going to re-explore that here in a minute. Then I'm going to look for exclusive qualifiers. usually, typically, normally. So if somebody gives you an answer and it's a yes or no question and they say, yeah, normally I do this, why did you have to put normally in there? Why didn't you just say yes or no? It's a hedge. It's a problem. So they are probably telling you the truth that normally they don't eat the entire half gallon of ice cream. But this time they did.
Normally I don't shut people up, but this time.
How people answer the yes or no. Is it a yes with an exclamation point or is it yes with a question mark? So if I say to my daughter, hey, Sydney, did you clean your room? Yes. That's a yes that says, man, I hope you believe me, right? Yes and no should be answered if it should have an exclamation point behind it. And when it doesn't, your ears should pick that up, and that's an issue. Or they lie overly specifically. So, Sydney, did you get all your homework done? I got all my math homework done. It's a true statement. But that's not what I asked. I said, did you get all your homework done? We're probably missing some biology there. So little things like that are going to help you. And then also signs of anger when somebody asks you a question that shouldn't have anger. Like, what are you doubting me?
Yeah.
Why would you ask me that? Like, why are they getting defensive about that? Now, if you're questioning your spouse on cheating and you got no reason to, that might cause defensiveness. But that is a little, Or if they immediately go to, I swear to God, this, that, and the other. Now, have I heard that from honest people? Absolutely. But it's a yes or no question. Why are you having to spice it up with some higher power? So the general rule is yes or no question, yes or no response, timely fashion. If you get that, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Okay. Okay, well, let's read the passage
Okay.
now. I had to put myself figure out what would it be like to be married or a child of a CIA. Okay.
So this is like 3 or 4 paragraphs. I'm just going to talk about in the conclusion of my book as I look at learning as a journey, and the focus that I wanted to kind of hit with this is I'm a big fan of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's what I did to kind of cope with dealing with talking to some monsters out there, the true predators. The predators these are the open water sharks. These are, like, everybody thinks a great white shark is the most dangerous shark because it looks scary. No, you dress up like its primary food source and you're in murky water and you're a surfer where it likes to hunt seals, you're probably going to get bit. No, it's that open water oceanic white tip that hears an explosion and swims from 50 miles away, and it will eat everything it can because it may not have another opportunity. Those are the true predators amongst us. They're hard to identify. They're very, very good at what they do. And having to talk to hundreds of those, I had to have a coping mechanism. And luckily I had a good PhD that gave me some coping mechanisms, and one of them was finding another sport. And jiu-jitsu for me was that. So I tried to make some metaphors and some analogies on jiu-jitsu, on how lifelong learning can apply to this. So as we reach the end of this journey, remember every conversation is an opportunity to learn, to connect, and to build trust. Communication isn't a one-time achievement. It's a lifelong skill that sharpens through practice, reflection, and intentional growth. The idea was vividly demonstrated during the first Ultimate Fighting Championship in 1993. Fighters from different disciplines, boxing, kickboxing, karate, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, each believed their fighting method was the best. But it was Royce Gracie, a calm BJJ practitioner, who stunned the world by dominating his much stronger opponents. His success didn't just win a title, it changed how fighters train forever. Yet, within a few short years, the landscape evolved. Early specialists in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who initially dominated by relying solely on this type of fighting, soon faced defeat at the hands of more well-rounded fighters. Those who combined striking, wrestling, and submission skills. The first UFC proved a point, but it also sparked an arms race for adaptation. Fighters who remained beholden to a single style quickly found themselves left behind. The lesson: mastery does not come from rigid loyalty to one approach, but from blending, adapting, and evolving. This principle also applies to communication. Exceptional communicators don't depend on one single trick or technique. They observe, listen, adapt. General communication isn't about exerting control, it's about being present. This means being fully engaged and authentically human, and being open to understand what others may find difficult to express. Ask the better question, the one that cuts beneath the surface. Notice what others miss, the pause, the glance, the story hidden in the words. Create the space where truth feels safe enough to emerge. Because the truth rarely arrives on command. It waits, it watches, it tests whether you are worthy to receive it. So be patient, be present, and when the moment finally comes, whether in an interrogation room, a boardroom, or your own living room, look the other person in the eye, lean in just enough, and invite them to do the one thing that matters most: tell you everything.
Woo! So with that, are you, through this book, do you feel like you're teaching people how to lie or how not to lie?
Well, if you look at it this way, Charlie Manson, the famous leader of the, I can't remember the name of his group, but one of the worst human beings on the planet, when he was in prison in the 60s and 70s, read How to Win Friends and Influence People. So are people going to educate themselves? Absolutely, but they're not going to change their pathology. And what I mean by that is the boogeyman is the boogeyman. He doesn't think he is, but he is, and he will revert back, and he can have all the knowledge in the world that he wants, but he's still going to become that person. The narcissist is still the narcissist, and I always love it when people say, oh, here's how you identify a narcissist, and here's the 10 tips on how you identify a narcissist. Hey, how about you just don't associate with that person? The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. If somebody at 35 years old is a narcissist, how about we just don't hang out with them? There's 8 billion people on this planet. A lot of them will be your friends. You're a very friendly person, Lindsay.
Thank you.
I'm sure there are a lot of people that will be your friend. If you have one that's in your wolf pack, that's a narcissist or whatever, they're that person that, you don't want to share things to. Maybe it's time for them to pick up that book and rip out that page and say, hey, be on your own journey. Okay? You don't have to go out of your way to befriend people. And that's what I learned is people are people. Not everybody has the right to be in your life. And when I see victimization, that's the problem. Kids are not victimized by the person with the van that says free candy on it. They're victimized at people that we allow into our life, the step-parents that we associate with, the, stepfather that we bring into our family, the uncle that we allow to have access, the unmitigated access that we let our kids have to online gaming platforms where these people can come into our house digitally, is we're making those conscious choices. So let's be a little bit harder about who we allow into our life, and a lot better things will happen to us.
But can you cure, in your opinion, is narcissism curable?
Narcissism is very difficult to cure as far as when
at least?
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. And one of the best ways to do it is once people start realizing that, hey, I'm losing all these friendships, it's not working for me. You're never going to eradicate it, but you may limit its reach in how it presents itself. But you got to call it out. Is that too many times people allow themselves to be victimized and they don't speak truth to power. You have to do that. When you see a behavior, label it. And that's the best way to handle it, because now they may try to shroud it and do it a different way, but at least you're putting them on notice that, not today, okay? If you just let somebody victimize you, they're going to keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious to you how much, because I feel like I had to learn this, that I don't need to fix people. I don't need to heal people. It's not my job to make sure other people are comfortable. I'm still figuring that out. Yep. But also, I think there's a balance to that, because I do believe we're on this earth to make ourselves better, which makes other people around us better. I think that's how we heal the world. People say, what could I do to change the world? You change yourself, at risk of sounding Pollyanna and cliche. If I'm better, people around me are better. Trickle, trickle, trickle. So, like, for you in your position, how do you, or do you even consciously balance when you're so you're sitting down with evil, and your job is that you need to get the truth out of them, but you're also a human. Are you balancing get the truth out of someone and also try to leave them a little better on the right path, or do you have to take that out?
A little bit of both. So my goal when I start the interaction, I learned this from a mentor, was I want to have every interaction with somebody hoping to get a Christmas card at the end of the year. And my buddy Martin, FBI agent that taught me this, he's long retired now. And he's been in multiple field offices throughout the United States. Those field offices still get Christmas cards from serial killers, robbers, rapists that he treated with such respect. You go back to Hans Scharf, interrogator for the Luftwaffe during World War II. You would think if you were an Allied pilot and you got shot down in World War II, that bad things were going to happen to you. Scharf was the first person that would talk to you. He'd take you on a walk in the woods. If your leg was hurt, he would go get it bandaged up at the hospital. He'd get you to the front of the line. He wouldn't ask you interrogation questions for the longest time. He'd use intelligence, preparation, gun camera footage, stuff from England bases to create an environment that he already knows what he needs to know. And he would treat people with such respect that they sponsored his citizenship to the United States after the war. Think about that, right? So we go back to, is there hope in society? You had somebody that was fighting for the Germans, but treated people with such respect that people sponsored his citizenship to come to the United States after that, and he married an American woman. I mean, it's a crazy story, right?
Yeah.
So I try to be people's buddy. And what I mean by that, let me give you a for instance. So, and whether we go long on this and you have to edit it out, feel free. Good. But if I had to say to you, what should happen to this person? Okay, let's say we got a big guy and a short guy. Okay, and you got to decide who gets the bullet. And you can't line them up together, okay? The short guy was born in the late 1800s, okay? He rose to power after World War I. He was a veteran in his country. He actually got medals from his country for his service during World War I. He kind of rose to power, was very introverted, but then he kind of gained his political speaking power as he kind of went along. Led his military juggernaut. He's a very short guy, by the way. Led his military juggernaut in World War II. And if we just want to focus on burning deaths, he burned over 1 million people to death. So that's the short guy. And then we have a tall guy. He makes up about 3% of his country's subpopulation, which he associates with. And he's extremely tall, okay? He fought off 2 empires, 2 superpowers. And when he fought off each of those superpowers, he was fighting on behalf of the other superpower, so to speak. He was very rich. He used those financial resources actually to support his cause, and many people didn't believe in it. He was actually on the front lines fighting as well, sometimes to his people, very heroically. But his actions led to the deaths of over 20,000 people and a crazy amount of debt and financial ruin to the country fighting against him. So you have the short guy and you have the big guy. Who gets the bullet?
I mean, short guy in my, I don't know. I mean, because what I feel like you said, like, what I heard you say was tall guy, his actions led to the death of people, whereas short guy's
actions led to him.
Short guy's actions, but short guy to me in that, at least in that interpretation, felt more involved in, obviously. And short people have no business being alive.
Yeah, those darn hobbits.
Right. I don't know what answer is right or wrong. And
Well, you got to make a choice. You're at the Nuremberg trials right now. You have to make a choice.
Well, the short guy, but I also think it's
no. But you got one gun, one pull. So short guy gets the bullet.
Short guy, but why did I say short guy?
I don't know why you shot Harry S. Truman. I don't know why you didn't shoot George Washington. Okay. Yeah. So we talk horns and halos. We circle back to the boogeyman. Who's the boogeyman? We focus on how can we take things out of context, whatever the case may be. When I do that with my students, they're like, wow. And I'm like, look, if we're going to interrogate Osama bin Laden, who you probably thought the tall guy was, Osama bin Laden with radical Islam, if you want to say 3% of the faith, very rich, okay, fought by terroristic means. What was the Patriots during the Revolutionary War? They were about 3% of the American populace. George Washington was very rich. George Washington was very fanatical in that sense. He fought. He got shot. There's a lot of similarities when you just look at just those situations.
Right.
And the whole point of that is if I'm interrogating Osama bin Laden, I have to talk to him as if he's George Washington. It's scary and it's a terrible thing to do, and it's mentally straining because you view this person as you organized the killing of thousands of Americans and trillions of dollars of debt as a result of our global war on terror. And then if you go on the other end and say, how would I interrogate Adolf Hitler? I'd talk to him like he's Harry S. Truman, because in his word he is. The boogeyman does not think he's the boogeyman. Everyone has their own adventure, and they're the hero of it. So if I was going to interrogate Harry S. Truman, I'd be his buddy. That's my acronym. Who would I blame? I'd blame the Empire of Japan. We were minding our own business through Monroe Doctrine. We were worried about the Western Hemisphere. And what did they do? They killed 3,000 of our soldiers, sailors, and airmen in a sneak attack. Then I would understand. I wouldn't agree with, but I'd say, Harry, I get it. You launched those 17 fire bombings of Japan and on their civilian populace, and you dropped 2 atomic weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki because you were having to write letters home after Iwo Jima and Okinawa and Peleliu to grieving wives and family members. And then I diminish the impact by saying, Harry, look, we're talking about 1 million lives, terrible, but you saved millions more because we didn't have to land our men and women on the mainland of Japan. And as a result, we probably saved 2 or 3 million lives. You actually did the right thing. And I demonstrate tactical empathy by saying, Harry, it's kind of like an ER doc at 2 a.m. A family gets in a horrific car accident while traveling on the interstate, and this 2-year-old boy comes in and he's got a mangled leg, and you got to make a decision. Am I going to take the leg or not? If you don't take the leg, sepsis may kick in and the kid may die. But you know if you take the leg, the kid will live. He just won't obviously have a leg. And you make that tough decision. And that's what you...
In the blink of an eye.
And in blink of an eye. And that's what you did here. You took the leg. But you know what? The organism as itself lived. Because that's the guy you are. Because the buck stops here. That's the man that you are. And through the Marshall Plan, you rebuilt the world because you're a good man. You made a tough choice. I'd be his buddy. And that's what your friends are going to do when you're going through something. And it's good communication is like a good podcast. You do your prep work. You do a good introduction. We had a wonderful lunch. Okay.
Are you saying this is a good podcast?
I'm saying it's 100% a good podcast.
Great.
You let me talk 80% of the time.
Very hard for me, by the way.
I picked that up. If I go down a rabbit hole, you bring me back. But if I go down a rabbit hole that you think your listeners would like, you tease it out. That's good communication when you're talking to a friend, and it's a good podcast. We're in Nashville, so I'll say good communication is like good barbecue. All right? It's not grilling. Anybody can grill. They get it up to 450. They throw the hamburger on there. It's not grilling. If I can take a tough piece of meat, like a brisket, and I can get, my big green egg at 225, and I can get my applewood going, and I can get that brisket for 12 to 14 hours, I can take the toughest meat and I can turn it into something good because I prepped, I took care of it, and I let time work it out. So those are some parallels to good communication, I think. Good podcast, good barbecue, no grilling. Don't try to have speed get you the information, whether you're talking to your kids or coworkers. Let time kind of tease it out a little bit.
The buddy thing. Also, by the way, I just felt really bad about myself because earlier you said that murders and rapists send Christmas cards, and I realized I haven't sent a Christmas card in a very long time. So I feel like I'm
terrible. Below them.
I'm below them.
Yeah.
I'm below the lowest common denominator.
Terrible.
So thanks for coming today. Also in the book you were mentioning jujitsu, and to circle this back to writing, the healing power of writing. I think it kind of made me think when you were talking about that. I mean, we know we work out, we release endorphins, and we can hit a punching bag if we're mad, whatever. But do you see the correlation in writing and also jiu-jitsu? And to the second point of that for you to dive into, with just already almost only like 8 minutes left here. But I'm with all you've done and seen, has writing been for you, writing and jiu-jitsu and any sort of physical release? I mean, do you see it completely necessary in order to get, there's got to be stuff stuck in you?
Yeah, I do.
How do you get
Is
it
that
out?
I do an after action, and I've kept, since my first polygraph, I've kept kind of my own journal after each examination. What did I learn? What did I not learn? And at first I thought that was very transactional. Like, hey, this is my scalps to take, the victories. And but I think it was very therapeutic because it was a way for me to kind of get it out. And with jiu-jitsu, when you first start off, you're going, white belt. I'm a brown belt now, but when you're a white belt, been doing it for 10, 12 years, and you grab on so tight, your heart rate's so high, you can't think. And there's this thing called the Yerkes-Dodson principle, and it's about the level of arousal that you're at and your ability to perform complex tasks. Meaning, if my heart rate's 160, I shouldn't be knitting anything at this point, right? I shouldn't be trying to write. And same thing as when you just wake up or you're super tired. That's not a time to have a good conversation. It's not a time to do something where you have to really think. So for me, and how this relates to writing is when it came to the book, when I had an idea, it would typically be when I was driving home or I was in the shower. Because you're doing just enough activity. And it wasn't when I was on backcountry roads where I had to do a bunch of thinking, there were a bunch of lights. It was when I was on the interstate.
Yeah.
Where every once in a while a car will merge over. Every once in a while one of your wonderful truckers will be coming up. But it would be to where I just had enough going on in my brain to where I had enough excess to come up with that idea where I'm like, whoa. And I have to have that with my phone, whether it be Siri, take this note down or whatever. But I would say almost half of my book came in that headspace. When I was driving home, taking a shower, coming back from a jiu-jitsu session where I'm tired, I'm not thinking about much, I'm sweaty, I'm stinky, and I'm like, oh, wow, you know what? Lyrics are the words, the soundtrack is how you say the words, and the music video, wow, that's how you communicate. And I think that has a lot to do with writing is we're so worried about the words, and we don't realize, how important it is of the soundtrack. Like, think about, a Pearl Jam song. Eddie Vedder, I can't understand half of what he's saying. I think when he wrote down some of those words, like I was listening to Black yesterday, and I thought all the words that I knew were not the words, but his voice is an instrument. Nobody else could have written that, could have written Black and thought, oh, this is going to be a good, album that's going to sell millions on 10. But it's the way he did it, and it's the way the music backed it up. I mean, same thing with my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor. He speaks Portuguese. Aerosmith and Red Hot Chili Peppers were his favorite musicians growing up. He didn't understand the word they were saying. Why did he like it? Because Chad Smith on the drums, Flea on the bass. Okay, Anthony Kiedis jumping around like crazy. Performance is just as important. Like, we think songwriting, we have to say, what's the end product? How does this tie into the whole package? Celentano was an Italian artist in 1973 that wrote a best-selling, he was an Italian artist. He wrote a best-selling song. It was complete gibberish. He wrote what he thought English sounded like. And it means nothing. But if your listeners will go to Celentano on YouTube right now, it's a banger. It's awesome. And not one word means anything. But all the Italians and all the non-English speaking countries had it number one because they're like, oh, that's an English song. And because it was performative, it was good. And I've seen this recently, and I don't know your take on it, because AI, everybody's so scared of it and they're afraid of it. And a lot of creatives are like, oh, that sucks and that's not this. But they'll take these country songs and they'll turn them into rap. Or I saw one yesterday where they took 50 Cent's Many Men and they used AI to create a bluegrass version of Many Men. It was amazing. And I used to think it was terrible, but what I would do is I will use AI to shape my message. I'll use it we have a program that allows me to interrogate an avatar, and we can change the avatar to a different person, a different dialect, and so I can red team and kind of check and see if stuff works. And I just wonder how long it's going to be before writers, and I'm not talking about ChatGPT, like give me good lyrics or tie this in. I'm talking about take what I've creatively made and how can I put some sheet music to that and some instrumentation to that to kind of make it into a hit. I wonder how all that streams together, because to me, it's not about the words. I can have the worst script, but in an interrogation, if I say things confidently and with really good body language, I'm going to have much more effect, than if I have a bad script. If I have a bad script and I say things well, it's going to be much more performative than if I have the world's greatest script or pitch and I say it like this and it's very boring. And so,
yeah, well, it's committing to anything, I think, too, and whatever you're delivering authentically. Mm-hmm. My take on the AI thing, personally, just quickly, I think if it's come from you and then you're using AI to enhance it and make it better, then there's not that there's no harm. It kind of depends on how you do it. But I also think at some point we can just separate. Here's AI music. Like, I think the Grammys should have a category for AI music and for non-AI music. It's not going to
Major League Baseball players that use steroids and ones that didn't.
Exactly.
Right?
There's the steroid league and the non-steroid league. There's the AI league and I think it's fine. You mentioned the ER, and I just want to bring it up quick because my husband and I are watching that show, The Pit, right now. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
And our friends that have worked in the ER that are saying they're getting this right for the most part. And the most intriguing thing about that is that each episode is 1 hour of the day, so one season is one day, and you realize how much these people are enduring. Same with you. You realize how much someone like you and your line of and all of your multiple lines of work that are all fall under the same umbrella, what you've seen and endured. And I'm thankful that you understand the power of writing, the necessity of it, even if it's something like this wasn't necessarily. Or maybe it was. Was this book healing for you?
A lot of it was. Getting the stories out was, especially the ones related to the kids, because the scars that were hidden that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
So definitely in that regard, getting rid of them.
And do you think, just final ask you, I think a lot of people say you've seen just the most horrific when it comes to children, obviously. I hope we can all agree that's the most horrific. And you've seen that and you know that and you've seen that pure evil. Do you think that by sharing these stories, because most people will be like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to know what's happening. Yeah. Like, well, that's not helpful. Do you think by sharing the stories, forcing people to say, this is what is happening, that changes the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a car wreck. People have to see it. There are bad people out there, but what I tried to do is caveat that with, those few monsters that I talked about, that we're allowing too many monsters into our house, and we got to be more observant of what our kids are doing on these online gaming platforms. We have a generation of kids that start this way and then they go offline to these other apps that are more restrictive and more encrypted, and they go to completely encrypted apps, and before you know it, we don't know who our kids are talking to. Yeah. And so as a mother, we need to, I'm not saying have a surveillance society where we see and do everything to our kids, because that's not very trusting. But we definitely need to educate them, because I've seen, sadly, Many of these cases, these extortion cases, where you get these 16, 17-year-old boys that, you know, they're making a poor choice by sending an inappropriate picture or asking for an inappropriate picture, and the next thing you know, someone in a penitentiary or a foreign country is extorting them, and they kill themselves. And it's just horrifically sad that things that we didn't have to worry about, you know, come home when the streetlights are on or whatever the case may be, is that those days are. It's dangerous in other ways nowadays. Is that the cases we worry about, you know, kids being abducted and things like that, that's not the norm, but that's what gets most of the highlights. It's we just have to be careful about who we're letting into our house.
Absolutely. To be careful about not letting you in. Bradley Beeler, you can head over to bradleybeeler.com, Beeler. The book is Tell Me Everything. It's fascinating. I mean, you've given just, he said so much today, and he's like barely scratched the surface of what's in here and what just you can learn from him by following along. Leave us with these last 30 seconds. Tell our audience, why do they need to write? What has writing done for you?
Writing done for me, I go back to Miss Bertrand. I go back to 11th grade, and somebody that was my drama teacher, but she was also the English teacher, and she just talked about the catharsis that we get by putting words on paper, is that we now have history of something that happened that we would have forgotten forever. And we can shape it however we want it. We can take it where we want it. Those are our words. No one can ever take us back from them. And I learned a lot from that. And then I also shout out to my creative writing coach or teacher at University of Alabama. Amazing instructor that really taught me the power of words. So long time ago, dating myself.
You look great.
Thank you.
You're killing it. BradleyBeeler.com. The book is Tell Me Everything. This is We Should Write, a show about the healing power of writing. It's executive produced by me, technically produced by Seamus Frawley and Zach Wilson. Y'all tune in for another episode coming soon. Buy this book. Learn how to lie or not to. Jury's still out. Y'all have a great day.